Hello, everyone, and welcome now to day 5 of our reading, Daniel for Advent, one chapter a day, Monday through Thursdays. For those that watch the videos, listen to the videos daily, then you know this one's going out a little later this morning. I apologize for many of you, most of you, it'll miss your ride to work, but will be available for your return home from work to those that enjoy it in those times of day. All right, last week the 4 chapters, each one of those in some subtle ways, others more direct ways. Here, the people of God are resisting the empire, and God is showing that He is victorious, and He's the true ruler of the world, even while there are Babylons that are great empires, even while there are Nebuchadnezzar, the great rulers of the empires. In fact, we're in chapter number 4, where it had left off, that Nebuchadnezzar had turned one into insanity to humble him. So that presents a leeway into chapter number 5, whereas the Belshazzar, who is a grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, is now running things there in Babylon. And so he's going to prepare a great banquet. And, you know, to us, it's not as striking. But to Daniel's early audience, I mean, this idea of a great banquet, 1,000 of his nobles drinking wine with them all, it's a symbol. Anytime there was a time of plentiful and beyond plenty, at least for the elites of the empire, there's a symbolism there because it doesn't represent the mainstream of society. And so, even within that first sentence, Belshazzar is looking suspicious because, remember, what was it in the previous chapter that God told Nebuchadnezzar he should do? Pay attention to the poor. And here's Belshazzar in his excess, having this great party, 1,000 people there, and drinking wine, and he's becoming intoxicated. And so he does what sometimes happens in times of intoxication. He wants to show off here to these 1,000 guests, as well as his wives and concubines. And so he gets an idea. Hey, my grandfather, my forefather, Nebuchadnezzar, when he destroyed Jerusalem and that temple, he brought the sacred gold and silver vessels from that temple, and they've been in storage. It's time to bring them out of storage, and it's time to drink from them. Ooh. And so they're drinking, and basically in verse number 4, they are raising toasts to pagan gods, gods of materials, to idols. And what do you know? Here comes this hand that's writing on the wall of the place of the party. All right, everyone's becoming concerned. What does this hand mean? What does this writing mean? And all of the people of Babylon, these astrologers and these wise men, remember, oftentimes those that are the ones who are in this book of Daniel, those are the ones who are supposed to be giving the advice, just are rendered incompetent. In chapter number 1, they wanted to change the diets, but Daniel knew the better diet. In chapter number 2, the sorcerers and wise men, astrologers, they couldn't give the dream and interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar. Here comes Daniel. He's able to do it. So they're trying to figure out what, as the oracles are ignorant, who can translate, and then possibly interpret what this hand is writing on the wall. And of course, Daniel is remembered, and that they find him, And so, Daniel comes before Belshazzar, who is acting king, and Belshazzar presents him with an opportunity. I will give you, all kinds of things if you can tell me what this means. Okay, so then, the climax, begins to reach in verse 17. Daniel says, keep your gifts and your rewards, but I'm going to let you know the interpretation. It was God who had favor on Nebuchadnezzar, and it was God who humbled Nebuchadnezzar when Nebuchadnezzar refused to be humbled. But Nebuchadnezzar, he got it. He understood. Remember, the echoes at the end, the conclusion of every chapter thus far has been someone from the empire. Usually Nebuchadnezzar is the one is giving praise to God. He's giving quite a doxology, as it were. But the problem is, Belshazzar, you are not humble. What have you done? You have added insult to injury. You have, it was in the design of God for that temple to have been destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar. However, your arrogance of drinking from its vessels you've gone beyond the limits now. And so here's the interpretation. Mene tekel parsin. The interpretation is God has numbered your kingdom's days and brought it to an end. You are weighed on the balances, and you are found lacking. Your kingdom is divided and given over to the Medes and the Persians. Okay. So, you've heard me say time and again, there's humor, there's awkwardness, there's satire here in Daniel. Where do we find it now? Well, after Daniel presents the oracle, we might expect Belshazzar to be concerned, right? No, he clothes Daniel in purple, gives him a golden collar around his neck, and proclaims him third ruler in the kingdom. So, if you're about to lose your kingdom, might you have other priorities? Well, no, not for drunken Belshazzar. And that very night, the Medes and the Persians, the Persians became the primary ones, but they dug under the walls of Babylon where there were canals for water, and they came into the region and its cities, and that way they took over the empire, and they killed Belshazzar. And so then Darius, or sometimes Darius, becomes the new ruler of empire. So then, as we move forward in Daniel's the book that bears his name, we have shifted from one empire, that head of gold, to those shoulders and that chest that the image had presented back in chapter number 2, and it moves from Nebuchadnezzar to King Darius or Darius. And so with that, once more, there's at one end the empire, and there's at the other end God and his servants, like Daniel. And once more, 5 times now in 5 chapters, we no longer have to ask the question, guess who's going to win? Clearly, it is God. And so what's happening here is these are a people, the Hebrews at this point, who have been conquered by the Babylonians. They have been humbled by the Babylonians, and they're wondering, where is God in all of this? Is God still in charge and control? What's God going to do? Well, the idea is clearly God is still in charge and in control. As he humbled his own Hebrews, he can humble the Babylonians as well. And God still has a plan and a design, and God is going to show that no empire is greater than him. And so another deliciously rich chapter. And I will meet you again tomorrow as we go into chapter 6 and start to see Daniel's interaction with the Persians. Thank you all for joining with me in this reading. If you have any questions or comments to make, please email me, and I'll address those at some point. Thank you.